Hi.
Hi. PhD ape promises a vaccine in 5 months. Welcome to I Hope You Suffer.
Does he?
Yeah, because the latest update.
All right.
So we're
Way to
5 months out from a cure.
It's about time, PhD ape.
I don't want to work like this anymore.
Same. This is episode 84 or 85. I don't know. Time is a flat circle.
Maybe 86.
Of I Hope You Suffer. My name is Nathan.
I'm Kit.
I'm Katie, and welcome to my birthday extravaganza.
Boo.
It's 85.
I thought so. I think I just didn't update my notes, so it's a number.
In the 80s.
We watched the Grudge-u. That's what I'm going to refer to it. Ringage. The Ringage.
The
match
Ringage.
from 2016. Katie, you take over. I got nothing. I don't know fucking anything about any of this. I've seen, I think, one movie out of this entire fucking 24 movie combo series.
Yeah, so
I've only seen the American remakes.
I've seen the Ring remake, and that's it.
so this is one of the trivia I saw is that this is actually the 12th movie, and if you combine the original movies and the remakes for each series, this is actually the 12th movie in both The Ring and The Grudge,
Yeah.
movie line, which I thought was crazy. I've seen I have not seen everything. I've
Only 'cause you haven't seen, like, the new Grudge remake that just came out, right?
right. I've seen all of the Ring remakes. I actually saw the newest one, Rings, when we were in Japan last year, with that horrible man from that terrible big theory show. And it was bad. I've seen like the first two of the original Japanese Ringu, and I've seen like the original Grudge, and then the remake, and that's it. So I've seen a lot more Ring than I have seen the Grudge. But the thing that you need to know about this movie, it is called Sadako versus Kayako, and it's not canon.
The scariest mashup of all time, or fucking.
Something about a scary horror showdown.
Why is it not canon? Why would they do that?
Because I don't know. Because
it originally, the thing I read was that it was made like the original like teaser or whatever that came out was a joke that they then decided to make into a real movie because people were just like, oh my god, I need this.
Yeah. I think that if they let's just start off with what did you think, I guess.
I mean, so I've seen the like the original Ringu, and I've seen the remake, and I think I've seen Juon, however it's pronounced, the original Grudge, but I think that's it. So I have like a very cursory knowledge of like any of this shit. And I mean, it's fine. It was not something I loved. It was not something I hated. It was just kind of there. Like, I doubt I would have ever watched it if it wasn't for this. But like, I didn't like hate it.
What about you?
I thought it was pretty good. I'm kind of, I didn't love it, but it was enjoyable. There's a lot of really cool kills that happened in it. A lot of horrifyingly snapped necks.
That's like the major way anyone does.
I I think my biggest thing, which I don't remember or know if it's like it in like any of the other movies, was that like I think the sound editing in some of it, I was just kind of like, okay, this doesn't need to be this loud compared to everything else. Like
The
like yeah, like
Kai Kayako's clicking or whatever.
yeah, and then like the fucking sound effects
Cat
of like yeah,
sounds.
like was all so loud compared to everything else.
The part that did work for me is I agree with you. The thing that did work for me was like anytime they had sound effects around Kayako where she was like flop stomping down the stairs and it being so loud, for some reason the sound of like bare feet on wood like scampering scares the crap out of me. So for me, where you can like, first of all, she's like a crab walk lady. She like crab walks. She can't stand upright. And so there's like one scene we'll get to where you don't see her, but you can hear the sound of her running. And I'm like, how? And so that's like a really big theme in like Japanese horror is that it's like they don't show you what's happening because whatever you can think of is probably worse. And so for me and that specific like scene, it really worked because it was like so loud even though we're in another room and I'm like I don't even want to go there thinking about like how she's making those noises. But yeah, so I agree. The clicking was really annoying, and then also anytime somebody was like watching Sadako's tape or like hearing that ring sound, I was like, please, because that happens a lot in this movie.
Yeah, it was just like because it would just like it's everyone talking for the most part and everything else was like super quiet, and then just anytime there was anything tense or either of those characters showed up, it would just get like super loud, and it was just like, all right, please stop.
Yeah, and any of the screaming was like really loud too. So I thought since technically this movie is like obviously like we said, a merging of two like universes basically. I thought I would just sort of give background on both of them like very briefly. Um so and then we could talk about the movie and then we can sort of talk about other stuff. But so basically Sadako is like I said before, if you don't listen to our last episode, I'll just give you like a refresh. Sadako is from Ringu, which in American is The Ring. In American. The American version is called The Ring, and the main character in the American version is Samara, who is a little girl. She is not. Sadako is not actually a little girl, and this is another one of those series that like there's so many movies and books and manga and like all this stuff where the story behind the main character is different. And the actual story behind Sadako, like her origin story, I think is like so insane. So I really encourage people to um, try and read that book because obviously now I'm sure there's a lot better translated versions. So the very first Ringu novel came out in 1991. It was written by Koji Suzuki. It was originally like a trilogy. And then they adapted it into a movie. It came out in 1998 in Japan, and it actually became the highest grossing horror film there, which is like pretty interesting. Um, and like I said, there's like 1,000 different like iterations and adaptations. There's like TV shows and like a bunch of stuff. Um, and then I wrote a note. I don't know what that means, so I'm gonna just move on. So I wrote like so the remake for The Ring, the original movie, came out in the American remake came out in 2002. Oh, I wrote terrible Big Bang Theory guys. Never mind. So Ju-on, which is what Kayako is from, came out technically in 2003. So he had so the what I think is really cool about this is that for the first time in something like this, it's not like somebody writes a novel and then somebody writes an adaptation of it. The director of Ju-on, which is Takashi Shimizu, he's actually the creator and the director. So he like made up this story to make a movie, which I think is pretty cool. And he also directed the remake that came out in 2004, which I think is pretty cool because I think normally when they do adaptations, they don't consult like the original directors on stuff like that. So, yeah, pretty cool.
Didn't I thought I read that like whoever did like the Japanese Ringu or whatever directed one of the like the remake ones too.
Probably.
Huh.
I don't.
I just like I thought I read that, but I wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah, I tried to do a little bit more of background research on some of this stuff, but some of the information is like a little convoluted to try and like search through because then it was like the this guy and this other guy were supposed to write Death Stranding, but then they didn't, and this and I'm just like, okay, it just gets to be too much information, I think, for like the point of it. So, anyways, that's just a little background. The only other, I don't know, I mean, that's it. So, I have seen. I don't know any of the people. I don't know. I was gonna save this for the end, but what I'm about, I'll just say it now. So basically, I've been watching, like, I've been into Japanese culture for a really long time. I think originally I got into it when I was in like 8th grade because of Pokemon, but I didn't actually know that like Pokemon was Japanese or like anything like that. And then eventually I found Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, and I started watching that stuff, and it just like went from there. So when I was in high school and like right when I graduated, I was like super, super into like anime, manga, and all that stuff. Like all I listened to was like Japanese music. And because I was also a horror fan, like I started watching and like getting into that kind of stuff. And Suncoast had like a cool little section that was like foreign horror films, and so that's where I found like a lot of the Japanese ones. So I have not really been into anime and all that stuff for a really long time at this point. So I have seen some like live action horror movies and like all that stuff, but a lot of them are like early 2000s. So I didn't recognize anybody that was in this movie. And because the series are so long, Sadako and Kayako are like not original actresses either. So I didn't know anybody in this movie, but should I say the actors' names anyway, or?
Yeah, that's up to you. I'm not gonna
Um,
recognize any of them, so.
yeah,
I mean, are they from like anything in particular?
not really. I was looking through some of them, and a lot of them did a lot of live action anime adaptation movies. But I don't really know if anyone that listens is like into anime at all, that it's gonna matter for me to say any of that stuff. But I don't
Were
want
were
people to feel like we don't we're not doing it because it's a Japanese movie. You know what I mean? Like I
I'll
think
say I normally I do all that stuff, but I just like I didn't today because I got off work, watched the movie, and then napped for 5 hours. So they got up to record.
yeah.
Were any of them in Seinfeld or Matlock?
Give me a Seinfeld connection,
No,
please.
I think some of these people probably were not even born.
I'm pretty
But
sure the
um,
character that plays Sadako was the soup Nazi in Seinfeld.
I think you're right. Ellie Nanami,
Yeah.
she was the soup Nazi. Um, yeah, so no, because I just want to preface it by saying like anyone who feels like they I like okay, this is like a really big like I don't get mad at a lot of stuff. This is a really big like hot button issue or whatever you want to say, just because of stuff that came out because of Parasite, where people are saying like, oh, this sucks because it's not in English, and if it's not in English and it shouldn't be winning, whatever, whatever. And if you're that kind of person, I hate you, and you can see yourself out. Um,
Same. Fact.
I think
Don't
other
don't be lazy.
yeah, and other cultures have just like so much like I don't know. I just think you shouldn't not watch something just because you're too lazy to read subtitles. Because a lot of times I feel like you're missing out on something that's really great. This movie's not really great, but I don't want people to think that we are not talking about like the actors and all that stuff just because it is a Japanese movie. And if you are butthurt that we're covering a movie that's in Japanese, then I'm sorry, because you
I'm
are
not.
wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, we're only
Um,
covering movies with subtitles going forward.
okay. I'm good with
I'm
that.
down.
Yeah, because it's just ignorant. Anyways, so yeah, not trying to like diminish anybody that was in this movie. I just think for the context of the show and who listens, it's not, yeah. So I'm just gonna start now that I've just gone on that tirade. So I think I've said all the facts that I have. Yeah. So basically, the other thing about this movie is I said it's not canon. I'll get into a couple things about why it's not, but also you don't actually need to have seen any of the other movies because I think you know they're covering two different series in one movie that literally like this is the 12th movie. So even if you don't know anything about the difference between like the two ghost ladies, because like they're both ghost ladies who are wearing white and they have long black hair, that's like an archetype for like a Japanese ghost. They tell you in the movie like what the two different like urban legends are or whatever, like pretty simply. So I think you know they did a good job in that aspect. Like I went into this movie like as skeptical as I would any other movie. I will say that like I do really like both of these original series, but like for me, I don't really have like a strong sense of like loyalty to the story and that it bothers me that they did this. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. We'll get into it.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm shocked this hadn't been a thing prior in like a manga or something. Like,
Yeah.
I'm surprised it took them that long for this to happen.
And then it happened as a joke. Yeah, so this came out in 2016 at this point. I think there's been another movie. I think there's been another Sadako. Sadako 3D or something like that. It either came out like right before or right after. So like they're gonna keep on trucking, I guess.
What? So is the video that they watch, is that the same thing that is shown in the first one?
I to be honest, I don't really remember.
I,
It's been a long time
yeah, it was
since
like
I
the only
saw
thing I
it,
was
but
curious about.
my I'm gonna lean towards probably.
It's just so like
I don't really
vastly
remember,
like
to be honest.
different from the American one.
Different, yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking too, and because it takes a really long time in this movie for us to actually even see what's on the videotape, but again, you know, a lot of it is playing into that like less is more. So, I mean, yeah, it probably is the original tape compared to like the American remake, which is like the Eli Roth version. There's like nails and people's and stuff. So,
Well, they also like
anyways,
came up with like, which I don't like, again, I saw Ringu like I think pretty early on when it came out. Like I don't remember really any of it, but like all of the like shit about like this is a girl that was drowned and that's why there's like water and here's like horses because of this horse farm and like all that shit.
She was a horse girl.
Yeah.
yeah, she was. Yeah, and it's a good point. I didn't even think about there's like not really that water aspect in the movie. It's just her hair, which was confusing because like everyone in this movie also has black hair. So like how come sometimes you don't know if it's your hair or not? I don't know. Do you know? Okay, so this movie starts basically with A welfare worker is showing up to check on a woman who hasn't been seen in a while. Her name is Miss Yasui, and they do this thing a lot with the I just call them murder house and video and the tape curse. Okay, so there's two different stories going on in this movie, obviously. And so they do a lot of shots that I like for the murder house aspect where they're showing like from inside the house to the front door and like stuff happens. So we get a shot of like the welfare lady like knocking and being like sumimasen and stuff, and we see somebody walk by and we're like, okay, I don't know what's going on. So she enters and she sees the lady she came to check on like sitting at a table, but then when she walks in the room the lady's gone. That's weird. There's just like old food everywhere. And she enters the TV room and finds that Miss Yasui is dead. And she killed herself with some kind of cord and hair. And then the TV starts playing. The welfare lady is like watching the TV.
Might as well.
I mean, it started playing, right? You
Yeah.
know.
Might as well hit the murder scene and watch it.
Yeah,
Could
right.
be a good movie. Maybe it's Die Hard.
It could be. I mean, that's really the only reason that you would, instead of running out of a house where you just found someone dead, would watch the TV instead. So,
Look, I'm just saying, if Boogie Nights was on, I would have sat down and watched it.
Sadako would have just like sat down next to you with some popcorn. It's
Yeah.
fine. So the TV starts. We see just from the perception of the TV. So we just see the social worker and then Sadako's behind her. And that's the end of the movie. No. So then we flash to an art school and Morishige is the teacher. He is talking about urban legends, and he's like mentioning some popular ones. The first one he mentions is the Slipmouth woman, which is like an actual Japanese like urban legend, and she's terrifying.
I want to hear about the Slipknot woman.
I think, yeah, you can tell us about that.
I was gonna make a joke about eyes, but yeah, it's like what is it? What's the fucking Slipknot song? Like pushing fingers into eyes or fucking whatever.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. So he goes through a couple other ones, and then he includes the quote-unquote death house, which is obviously The Grudge, and the cursed videotape. He essentially is saying that they're all made up, but at the same time is like, hey, but if anyone has that videotape, like, can you sell it to me? And they're all like, yeah. And then you find out that he's also written a book about it, so who knows? And so then we see the two, I'm gonna just call them, there's only a couple people in this movie really that are like main characters. So for the first half of the movie or whatever, the two main characters are Yuri and Natsumi. They are in this class and they're falling asleep, I guess. And so this is like one of the things that makes this different is that Morishige talks about how he like tells about Sadako, like there's a cursed videotape. If you watch the tape, then 2 days later she'll come and get you. And obviously everyone knows that it's 7 days, not 2 days.
Gotta speed up the process.
Yeah, she's like, this whole week thing is just a long time to wait. Like 2 days is fine.
The anticipation's too much.
That's right. And it's very clear that he's obsessed with Sadako at this point. So then Natsumi, who is a piece of trash, first of all. Can we all just agree that she is the absolute worst? I hate her. She asks Yuri to help her burn this videotape that she has of her parents' wedding to a DVD, and she coincidentally needs it in 2 days. And Yuri's like, yes, I will do it because you will buy me 5 lunches, which seems worth it until, they watch a cursed videotape because of it. That kind of sucks. Um, then we get a flashback to, or no, we switch gears to the other main character who is Suzuka, and her family is moving into a new house, and she pretends to be sad about it, but isn't. So don't know, it's fine. Um, they are moving into the house from the beginning of the movie-ish, I guess. Don't, I mean, I don't know if that was separate or not. But anyways, they're moving into a house that's next to the Grudge murder house. Um, and she's like psychic or something. She can hear children laughing and whatnot. And then we see my favorite character in this whole franchise, which is Toshio, the little cat boy, and he's just crouched behind the gate, like little cat boys do. Um, I will
Normal.
say, yeah, I will say, like, one of the only things that really sort of like took away from it for me is that I didn't really like the way that they did his makeup. Him and Kayako was kind of like, I don't know. I just didn't like it. It wasn't as creepy to me as like some of the past movies, but that's just me. Um, so Yuri and Natsumi go to a secondhand store because they're going to buy a tape deck, and they find one for $6, which is a pretty good deal. Except that there's gross hair on it.
I
I
mean, it's
immediately would have been like,
worth it
nope.
for a VHS player.
I'd be like, so it's just got some hair in it. That's fine. Um, and back at somebody's house, who I don't know whose house it is, Jerry turns on the VHS player, and a really gross old tape pops out. So of course they decide that they're gonna watch it, and Yuri gets a text, so she is on her phone, and only Natsumi watches the video, and she's like, "Wow, this is the cursed video I just watched." And she's freaked out, like you would be, because we just learned about this in class today,
I mean, I don't
so that's a
know.
weird coincidence, right?
I feel like
Serendipity.
if I watched this video, I'd be like, well, at least in 2 days, this is all over with.
Yeah. I'd have like 20 seconds of like, shit. And it's like, all right, well,
I
I
like
guess I'll do stuff that I like
I
for
guess I'm not going to
48
work
hours.
tomorrow.
right? For real. I like to think that I would be like, well, if I'm gonna die in 2 days anyways, like maybe I should just try and fight her. But I mean, who knows?
I'd cut a deal with her and be like, look, you can totally kill me in the 2 days, but don't do any of that like spooky, like showing up in the shower shit or whatever. Like, just leave me alone and we'll be
Can you
fine.
just not spy on me in the shower and stuff? Yeah, right. Or I would be like, can you make me also a scary ghost girl? Like, I would like that. That could be kind of cool.
Or like, bring me a coffee if you're gonna be creepy.
Do you want to meet up for boba beforehand? Like, we could listen to some records. Anyways, so Yuri doesn't believe her. Is like, haha, that's not real. But then Natsumi gets the call, and Yuri answers it, and it's just weird feedback, and the lights are flashing on and off, and then Natsumi sees Sadako, and she's like, wow, that is scary. So then back at the secondhand store, there's the clerk girl who works there, and she's like very nonchalantly just be like, hey, by the way, I sold this VHS player earlier, and it had the cursed video. I totally watched it. Haha. And the people who work there are like, that's weird.
Also,
And
rude.
also, right?
So rude.
Also because like, so for people, like, we're gonna get to it anyway. So for people who like don't know anything about like the original curse, basically it's like if you see the tape in 7 or 2 days, you're gonna die unless you pass the curse on to somebody else who then watches it, and then it restarts. So that way it like cycles from person to person to person, and Sadako just gets to keep killing people, like the dream. Um she I guess doesn't like knows the curse tape exists, but doesn't know she was like, but sold it on purpose. Like, I don't really understand what her, I don't know.
It's just a dumb
I think
millennial.
I True. I think that some of it also is that like towards because she comments that she had watched the tape 2 days before, and I think towards the end some of them sort of like are under Sadako's influence, so they'll do things like which we'll see later. They'll do things like, oh, I'm gonna pass the tape on even though I'm gonna die, I guess. So who knows? She's basically just like LOL, and the shop clerk is like, that seems serious. And then the girl immediately climbs on top of a really tall shelf and jumps off and commits suicide. So, you know.
It was like 8 feet.
Yeah, it did not seem very tall.
No, but I also didn't see what she landed on. So,
It
like,
was a stack
there
of
was
pillows. It's very weird.
it was one of those huge Totoro beds.
Ironically, all of those pillows were full of knives.
Yeah.
Shards of glass.
But you know, just so we know she's actually dead, we see like a pool of blood leak out. So don't worry, she's dead. So then we get Suzuka has a dream about being in the house, and she sees a boy, which I thought at first was Toshio, but it's definitely not. So then she's at school, and she's made new friends who, of course, make fun of her for living next to the murder house. For some reason, one of the girls is doing tarot. They tell her about the backstory of Kayako, which is basically that she lived in the house with her husband and her son. The backstory from it is that the husband thinks that she is cheating on him with like somebody at her university or something, so he like murders her and her son and the cat. And so that's why Toshio has like a cat meows, I guess, because you know the tragedy here is the cat. But so they're like, yeah, this happened, LOL. And then we look at all of the Suzuka's cards that she gets, and her friend is basically like, these are literally the worst tarot cards you could get, possibly, and it's all of them. It's like death, the devil, all that stuff. So she's in for a wild ride, to be frank. So, okay, so the next day, Yuri and Natsumi bring the tape back to the secondhand. I wrote secondhand parents. I thought they were her parents, but they're not. They find out that the woman, Mrs. Yasui from the beginning, is the one who owned the tape deck, that they bought it from her estate, and that the welfare worker who found her also committed suicide. We get a picture of her having stabbed herself in the neck with a very, very long knife. And then that the shop worker girl died having seen the video. So they decide now that they're going to go talk to Morishige, who's their teacher from the beginning. He immediately has a boner for Sadako. He's like so excited that they found the tape because he wants to see her. There's like some kind of talk about collective consciousness and stuff, and I don't really understand any of that, which is probably why I didn't understand what they said they were going to do in the end, but it's fine. And then the weird thing about this is that so Natsumi is like, well, like, am I going to die? What's going to happen? And he's like, I don't really have all the information. And I'm like, bro, didn't you write a book about this? Like, how do you not have the information? And then
A very good book, okay? Like, he
right?
never said it was great.
I mean, I guess. So then Yuri opens it and is just like, opens it to a page that's like, here, these are the 3 things that we can do. And then he's like, oh, yeah. Like, for real, sir? I don't know.
He's not a very good teacher.
No. Natsumi is basically just like, am I gonna die? And he literally is just like, maybe. I don't know. And I'm like, wow. So then he's like, okay, well, don't worry. I'm gonna watch the movie because I don't care if I die or not. And then, like a fucking idiot, he makes a copy of the videotape onto a DVD. For what? For what reason?
Posterity.
Like, please bury me with this copy of my true love, Sadako. So, then, okay, so he watches the video by himself. He doesn't want them in there. And then the phone rings, and he's literally like, hello? Sadako? that you?" Like he's just gonna have a chat with her on the phone. And um nothing, he doesn't see her, and he's just like, well, whatever, that's fine. And then we find out that Natsumi is still gonna die because Yuri is the one that gave him the tape instead of her. Like, what? So then Natsumi is basically just like, I would rather like kill myself than get killed by this curse. And I was just like, LOL, jokes on you, because Sadako literally makes you commit suicide. So either way, you're gonna get it. Um, so then we switch back to Suzuka. She sees that there's like this group of boys outside the house. This scene is like so messed up. So there's like this little boy who's like being bullied by these like other kids, and they're like, "Here, we have a present for you." And they fill his backpack with rocks for some reason, and then they're gonna make him go inside the murder house. So he finds a key and he goes in. Immediately we hear Raowing, and it's Toshio, and he's just like chilling on the stairs, and he's like, "Hey, bro." And then he comes, then the little boy like pops outside and just like hurls a rock at one of the dudes and just like hits him in the head, and he's just like
His aim
bleeding.
is so good.
I know. And then the kids like follow him inside, and then one by one, basically they die. So one of the boys
Yeah.
gets like, huh?
They get round.
Yeah. So they do. One of them gets like sucked into like underneath the kitchen cabinet. The second one really freaks me out because the idea, so he's like looking around, he hears splashing in the bathroom, and he's like,
Just leave. Just leave.
right? Right? And he's like, I'm gonna investigate this old, crusty ass looking bathroom. And he opens it, and there's like a bathtub full of dirty water. And he's just like, oh, what is that? And then you see like Toshio's face just like bubble up, which vomitous. And he gets grabbed into the dirty bathwater, which is like a nightmare.
Drowning is bad on its own. Drowning in a bunch of poo water, super out.
In a house that's been abandoned for like decades. No, thank
Decades
you.
old poo water.
Yeah. Ugh.
It's the worst poo water.
The strains of bacteria that must be in that water. So the third child finds the little boy that's been bullied, and I don't know, Toshio like jumps on him and like breaks his neck, I guess. I don't know. It cuts away because Kayako grabs the little boy, and it's done. They're all gone. So then Morishige decides that he's going to take the girls to an exorcist. This is where the movie took sort of a turn for me. Was not expecting any of this stuff to happen. So basically, the exorcist, Horyu does like a spiritual reading on the girls, and is basically just like, yikes, this is bad. Cancel my meetings. Like, I got to deal with this bullshit. Because now only two out of the three have seen the tape at this point. Morishige is basically just like, I don't care if I die or not, like, just save the girl. And she's like, okay, whatever. So they start doing this like ritual for Natsumi where they chant and throw water in her face and then make her drink a bunch of water and slap her and stuff. And Natsumi is just being a real bitch about it. She eventually she goes into like some kind of trance, I guess it is. And they're basically like trying to summon Sadako out of her, which I'm not really sure like how or why. But
Like flush her out.
I guess, but
Like literally flushing her out.
like that's why she's drinking so much water. She's just gonna like pee out Sadako. Yeah. Um
That'd have been a much better
then
movie.
drink all this holy water and just pee her out. And we'll flush her. And then she'll go to the pigster lair.
Yeah, it seems much easier than everything else they're going through.
My thing is that like this is one of the things that doesn't hold for me because Sadako doesn't like possess, is like not I don't know. She's like haunting them. I didn't really feel like she was possessing them, but maybe she is. I don't know. It's not my story. So Hori like randomly, so basically there's like this thing about how like if you try and stop Sadako's like reign of terror, then she'll kill you too, even if you haven't watched the tape, which to me seems like she should not be able to do, but whatever. So then Horyu's like one of her assistants just like snaps the neck of the other one, then like breaks her own back in half or something.
Ruled
Just
like hella broken.
Takes
like
takes a lot
all the
of
way back.
willpower to
Strength.
break your own
Yeah.
back.
And then yeah, Horyu's like, this is bad. Like you need to go find this other guy because I have failed. I left you a bunch of money. And I was like, okay.
This is
Uh,
really nice.
didn't yeah, she didn't I admire that she didn't really think that she could do it, but she still helped anyways, even though she probably I don't know. So Morishige is just basically just like, I want to see Sadako, and he starts like wrestling with Horyu, and then um she's like strangling him, and uh I guess she headbutts him to death. I don't. She like
What?
headbutts him, and then his face is.
Yeah. What happened to his head?
I
'Cause
don't
he
know.
headbutts him and he grows like a weird Pokemon head and is dead.
I don't really know. I and
I'm so taken aback. I was like, what? Is this a known skill that
not
has
that I
not
know
been
of. I like rewound it and watched it a few times because I did not know what happened. I was like, why does he have silly putty face all of a sudden? I have no idea. But he's dead. And I did not expect him to go out that way. He's just like flat out dead. And then yeah, I don't
I found a still of that when you for the Instagram post.
promo. Yeah,
Just
please.
like
So then Natsumi wakes up and Yuri's like, "Hey, are you okay?" And Natsumi is like, "No, I'm not okay." And she's just like looking around at all these like horribly disfigured dead people. And then she starts like blaming Yuri, which I'm like, why is it Yuri's fault? I mean, she was the one that was like, "Hey, let's watch this tape." But then like they didn't have to watch the tape, you know? I don't know. So then Yuri tells Natsumi to give her the like she's basically just like you give me the tape and then I'll watch it and then that way you'll be saved. And so then
Terrible
Yuri watches
logic.
it. Yeah, because obviously it's yeah, I don't know. She basically just like guilts her into being like whatever. So Yuri watches it. What?
but not a very good friend,
No.
Natsumi.
No, she's fucking terrible. She's the fucking worst. I hate her. Okay, so Yuri watches it. We finally see the tape, which is essentially just Sadako coming out of a basement. Natsumi shows up. We get a lot of scenes between like Yuri and Natsumi where you see a figure through like a fogged glass door and you think it's Sadako, but it's not. So like that's what happens. Natsumi shows up and then Yuri gets the call. This is when we're introduced to Keizo and Tamayo, who is a blind psychic child, I guess. I'm not really sure. Like, he's an exorcist and she's just like his partner, I guess. I liked this scene though because he came in and immediately like took the phone from Yuri and just like broke it and was like, "Well, you guys are stupid and you have no future." And I was like, finally someone's given the real talk here.
He's extremely aloof.
Yeah.
Possibly the most aloof person I've ever seen.
So,
So what happens if you just don't answer the phone after you watch the tape?
Natsumi didn't answer the phone, right? Like, she just let it ring and it still, like, went to voicemail, but just broadcast super loud anyway. I was thinking the same thing, and then she just wound up not answering, and I was like, oh.
Well, yeah,
Oh,
just
shit.
turn my phone off.
I'm right.
Throw
I'm
it in
pretty,
the seat.
I'm pretty sure that like it happens anyway. Because I'm pretty sure, like I can't remember what movie, but I'm pretty sure somebody does it, and it like doesn't matter. It came out of someone's mouth or something. I don't know.
What if you don't own a phone?
Well, So one of the things too is that when the teacher watched it, he like took out his phone, like wanting to answer, and his like landline rang instead. So like I don't really know. I think she'll just
Just send you a tweet.
find a way to get to you. Yeah, she'll send you an email if you're like walking by a call box, which they
A
have in Japan
letter.
still. Then yeah,
A letter.
somebody
she'll
comes
send you snail mail.
somebody comes deliver you like a telegram. Just like
A singing
high pitched
telegram, but
feedback.
just
Stop.
I'll just be like, one of the things they have to do in Matlock a lot is like subpoena people, and they have to be sneaky about it. So like, what if Sadako was like, "Hey, bitch, you're gonna die," and I'm like, "What if I acted like your subpoena lady for like people who don't have phones?" And I'll show up and be like, "Hi, hello, you're gonna have some money. Please read this," and then it's like, "Bitch, you're dead in 2 days," or something like that. That would be like lucrative.
I wonder if she pays that.
I think she pays in like you don't.
Get like some
Do
kind
you
of
die technically?
benefits.
You're undead, but you don't. Yeah, I don't know.
you don't drown in hair.
Do you get like 2 weeks vacation?
I say you think
Oh, a
she's
year where
union?
like you don't have to. Mm, I feel like no.
Uh,
Okay, so then so it's like nearing the end for Natsumi at this point, I guess. She goes into a trance again and a bunch of hair comes out of her mouth and Keizo, I'm pretty sure his name was Keizo, but in his IMDb they credit him as Kyozo. It's Keizo, I'm pretty sure. I don't know.
I
Knowing
after this death, I 100% checked out of this movie. So like I was
okay.
trying to like look up stuff about it, and then I just like looked up at one point, and I was like, I don't know what's happening in this movie anymore.
It was the
Yeah.
Pokemon head.
It really
Turtle.
it was it just really yeah, I
I
didn't
like
really yeah.
in my memory, it went from this death where she's like goes to like try to hang herself and then like gets killed anyway. And then all of a sudden I was like, "Oh, why are these people like jumping in a well? What's happening?"
You lost like 40 minutes of the
Oh my
movie.
god, it's so long.
It was like an hour and 40
Yes,
minutes.
but it doesn't need to be. We also just came off like three something movies in a row that were like an hour and 10 minutes at the most.
Yeah. Okay. So uh okay. So yeah, so they trap the hair that Sadako's hair in a bag. Not really
Rude.
a sentence I thought I would say.
That's a good
Uh
sentence.
yeah, randomly. Okay, this is another thing about this movie that I did not understand because um then Keizo randomly is just like, "Oh, we should just have Kayako fight Sadako." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, reasonable. Where did you get that from? Like, where did this come from? I have no idea."
The script.
So
He's
he's
been
basically
wanting to do it for a while. This is
yeah,
finally an excuse.
this is his like dream match and he's like, "Finally." Um so he basically like tells the two girls to like stay at her apartment and he will call them later or whatever. And they're just like, all right. Yuri is like, hey, can you make a copy of this of Natsumi's like parents' wedding on a DVD? And he's like, what the fuck? But he does it anyways because he's Japanese and they can't say no. So Suzuka's friend the next day at school is telling her about the four boys who have gone missing. Just like a quick flash of that. And so this is like when, yeah, so Yuri, did I miss the part where they're okay? So they're like watching the DVD of the wedding, and Natsumi is just being like stupid. And so Yuri is like, I'm gonna go take a shower. She's taking a shower, and this is where she's like having clumps of hair fall on her from the ceiling, which is like freaking gross. And she looks up, and there's just like squirmy hair everywhere, which is really gross. Um, and then she's fine. She's fine. So, um, K we switched to Keizo and Tamayo, who are at the murder house, And she's like, I know these spirits. It's Kayako and Toshio. And I'm like, how do you like why do you know this? But this part was kind of funny because we get an inside shot. We can see that Toshio is like crouching behind a door, like trying to hide. And then Keizo just like blesses this rock and just like chucks it in there and like hits Toshio and he like rounds off in a scamper. And then they just like leave. And I was like, okay, cool. Um, and then for some reason, Sadako's well is in their yard. I don't really know if they actually specifically said it was her well, but it's like Sadako is from a well, so I just
She's
assumed.
Welsh.
Seems like a
Yes.
real shitty place to live.
Yeah,
Real damp.
it's like hard to get out too. Like, I mean, I guess it'd be good if you were like in a quarantine and you're not supposed to leave
You like
because it's like sort of impossible to climb up.
all of your like bread, you would just be wet and soggy. And, like it just seems terrible.
Where do you keep your eggs and stuff? So
Do eggs float?
She's
You
vegan.
just
She doesn't have eggs.
them floating around.
she's vegan. Okay. Uh, okay, so they're like rooting around. Suzuka sees them and is like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And they're like, "Listen, stay away from this house or you'll die." And she's like, "That's strange." So later,
Strangers?
yeah, like, "Hey, uh." So then, sorry, there's like someone yelling outside my window.
It's probably
So
Chris.
later she, oh, it's somebody. Okay, leave.
Somebody being murdered.
I mean, it's hard to tell around here. Okay. So, oh yeah, so then she's like telling her parents that she saw four boys go into the murder house and they disappeared, and her family, of course, doesn't believe her. She has this like weird hallucination where she's inside the house. Then, so Natsumi, the bitch that she is, tells Yuri that she just decided to upload the tape, the curse tape, to the internet. And it's just like, she's just like, let's die together. Like, I don't want to die by myself. Like, let's do it together. Yuri, who does not know how the internet works, tells her to just remove the video from the internet, cash. And then Natsumi is like, listen, bitch, if you don't want to die together, then you're going to watch me die. She like locks herself in a room and is like somehow gonna strangle herself by putting a belt on a doorknob. I don't know. But then Sadako shows up and is, stares at her with her creepy eyeball. And then by the time Yuri breaks in, Natsumi's dead.
Natsumi went like full Joker there at the end.
She really did.
Very Joker-fied.
Yeah. She's just like, I don't want to die alone. Let's all die together.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to, fine. I'll just die by myself. It's fine. Like, okay. So then Keizo and Tamayo show up and they're just like, welp. Oh, that's it. The video's on the internet. Well, that's not great. Like, just very unfazed by it. Like, just totally. Well, that's
bound to
not great.
happen.
I mean, I guess so. And that's why this is also not canon because, like, one of the other movies, the video was like already on the internet or some shit. So the fact that it wasn't on the internet before is kind of surprising.
Yeah, it sounded like a plot point that sounded familiar to me, like something I remember hearing about, like one of the movies doing.
Yeah. So Yuri basically decides that she wants to help in the curse, and this part kind of confused me because Keizo says something, and I assumed he was talking to the little girl because she says that Sadako's curse is like has invisible strings. It's like a virus, invisible strings connecting everybody. And he says something like, well, if we have you be cursed, then maybe it'll spread like a vaccine. And I was like, I don't understand. Because I thought he was talking to the little girl because she's like psychic or something, so like maybe she could like project her psyche and like heal everyone or something, but that's not what happens. And even if he's talking to Yuri, that's not what happens. So like this whole part makes no sense, like at all. So whatever. So then we switch back to Suzuka, and she is peeping at the house across the street, and she sees a little boy in the window, and of course, she immediately leaves. Her parents unfortunately notice that she leaves and follows her, and then she goes in the house. She is scared by a cat for like the 12th time in this movie. Someone is scared by an actual cat. Um, and okay. She goes up, she's like in the house. She goes upstairs and finds the little boy sitting in a closet with his back to her. Never a good sign. But she immediately like she goes in there and she's just like, "Hey, bro, like you should. What are you doing in here?" And I'm like, "No, no, this is bad. Like, this is not a good sign." Because then immediately Toshio's face pops out of like the back of his head and meows at her. So
That's
she gets
fine.
round.
See,
Totally normal.
Yeah, you do. Um, like one of the things I don't like children in movies like this, and I also don't like when they have their backs to you because it's always bad. It's always a bad time. Like, ugh. Okay, so her parents, so she gets round at, and of course she runs down the stairs. Her parents like get in there and are like, "Oh man, everything's fine." But then Toshio's on the stairs. I wrote Toshio is on the move, and he gets he jumps on the dad and like pulls his head and his neck gets stretched and then they just fly up to the heavens much like in Derailed. um and then so we're like almost at the end of the movie and we finally see Kayako for the first time. And she's clicking and she is crawling down the stairs.
clicking and crawling.
I hate it. I hate the
Classic.
sound. I hate
A B
the
C C.
the flopping. I really hate it. I think she, uh, again, I feel like her makeup wasn't really there for me, but I hated it. And if I saw that, I
The
would just
foot slapping was
yeah,
there though.
it just
Made
it
up for the
was.
makeup.
And her clickety click, really loud. I can't. Anyways, um, and then I just wrote her mom has no feet. Her mom's feet disappear. Um, and then her mom's like, ah, run. Kayako just like flops up, climbs on top of the mom, and Suzuka like starts to leave. She opens the door, and then Keizo from like outside like throws the bag of Sadako's hair inside. I was like, what is happening? And the hair like squiggles out of the bag and like crawls up Kayoko's arm, and then they all just like slide into the darkness. I was like, oh, that's not great. Um, and then the next day, Suzuka just like wakes up, and there's just like a bunch of people in her room, and she's just like, oh. And Keizo's like, hey, your parents are dead. Let's work together. She's like, Yuri. And then Yuri's like, hey, my curse and your curse, they're gonna rumble. And so that's what they decide. And up until this point, I still had no idea, like, how this was gonna happen. I was like, I just still don't really understand why these two entities would fight each other. And then it all becomes clear. Because
Does it?
at night, yeah, at night, they're gonna go into the house. Yuri, who is currently under the curse of Sadako, is going to immediately become cursed by Kayako by entering the house because that's what her curse is. Suzuka, who is under Kayako's curse, is going to watch the tape inside and be cursed by Sadako. So their thought is that because both of these entities have claim to the souls of these people, that they will fight over their souls and destroy each other, which, spoiler alert, does not happen. But I was like, all right, I get it. I get it now. That's fine. I'm okay with it. It works for me. I still don't really see why they wouldn't, whatever. Keizo and Tamayo do some kind of like exorcist stuff to the well, and the girls are like, I'm scared. So then that night, they enter the house, and then, oh my gosh, Suzuka watches the tape. Bunch of poltergeist stuff starts happening for some reason. I'm not really sure why, because I don't feel like either of them have previously done poltergeist stuff, but that's fine. Um, After watching the tape, Suzuka answers the phone. Um, Toshio shows up and is like, "Hey," but then Sadako like grabs onto him with her hair and pulls him into the TV. I was like, "All right." And then Sadako comes out of the TV. So the girls are like standing in the living room and they're watching the TV. The staircase is behind them. Sadako is like crawling out of the TV, and then Kayako starts thumping down the stairs, clicking and clacking. And in my mind, I'm like, this would be so terrifying because of the two, I think Kayako scares me more because uh she's got like the distortion, she's got the clicking, she's got the thumping, and she can just like pull you into nothing. Like you're dead. You're just gone. And Sadako, like, I don't know, she can like show up and I don't know, whatever. But like the two of them together are pretty scary. I haven't talked about it on this podcast, but I have had sleep paralysis where I saw Sadako in it. So like to me,
Pass.
yeah, these are two very scary people.
What
And just
what do you guys do?
what do you mean?
Do you guys just like hang out in the dream?
No,
She,
it was not.
she
I didn't,
hired you,
I
gave
didn't.
you 2 weeks vacation.
She's standing in the corner of your room with a job application that you can never reach.
Pretty much. So to me, the thought of standing between these two ladies is not great. It's not an ideal situation, to say the least. Um, so it basically the entire time that this shit's happening, the girls are just like screaming, and I was like, "Girl, same. That's so scary." Um, so then, yeah, so she's thumping. Keizo is like on the phone with them and she's like, hey, don't look in Sadako's eyes, which is the first time we're like almost done with this movie. And this is the first time we've been told that you're not supposed to do that. So don't do it. Um, this is where I'm confused because then Keizo tells Tamayo to like stop her consciousness or something and she passes out. And I'm like, what? Why? Like, why? I don't
I
know.
genuinely don't remember any of this.
Okay. Okay, so this is the scene I was talking about. So the girls like run into the kitchen and we see Sadako sort of also the idea of Sadako just like walking around someone's house like makes me laugh. She's just like, what's going on in here? And
Making herself a sandwich.
yeah. She's yeah, right? She's like, you guys don't have any spicy brown. What's wrong with you? So
Maybe she saw Witchboard and was like, "That sounds like a good idea. Make this big ass sandwich."
let me borrow your mayo mop. So yeah, so Sadako's just like in the doorway of the hallway where the stairs are. And this is where we don't see Kayako, but we hear her running. And I was like, Kayako runs? Question mark? I don't know. She just like runs and like jumps on top of Sadako and like pulls her out of scene. Um, and we're like, okay, like they are fighting. Okay, all right. But then Kayako starts crawling into the kitchen and Sadako's hair is like wrapped around her arm. So I'm like, okay, I don't really know. So then Keizo is like, uh-oh, leave now. This did not work. And there's like a scene of Kayako or Sadako's hair like going into Kayako's like eyes and her mouth and stuff, and she like explodes. And then Keizo runs in there and he's just like, hey, like I told you to leave. What's going on? Kayako shows up again. So I don't know, like they keep destroying each other, but like they keep coming back. And Keizo like grabs Sadako's tape and like throws it to Kayako while the three of them run, and Kayako's like I don't know, destroying the videotape or something. And
Slap her foot against it.
yeah, it's like that meme that's like, oh, where'd you go? Anyways, so
What
uh,
is happening?
I'm drinking whiskey. That's what's happening. So so the three of them like run out to the well, and Keizo is just like, hey, someone. Oh, by the way, somebody has to be sacrificed. And the girls are like, okay, you did not tell us this in the beginning. That sucks. Because he is saying that Sadako and Kayako are going to possess somebody, like the same person's body, and then that person needs to jump down the well and be sealed in. And they'll die, but then the two ghost ladies will be sealed in the well. Not really sure like why they would possess the same body or how that would happen, but that's fine. Yuri, of course, is like, I'll do it. Like, it's fine. This is my fault anyways, which, girl, it's really not your fault, but it's fine. So she goes and stands up on top of the well. This scene is really weird. This is like not my favorite scene. Because so Kayako, I was under the impression that she couldn't leave the house because she's like haunting the house.
Yeah,
Huh?
she's under quarantine.
She's quarantined.
Right. Although I guess in the second grudge, there's like, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know enough about, I don't remember enough about her thing. I think, whatever. So Sadako and Kayako both come out to the well and they're just like, hey, bitch, it's time. And then I actually laughed at this part because, well, Sadako at this point is still just like creepy crawling, which was like fine to me. But then Sadako starts like float flying like towards the well, and it literally looked like they just like put her on some kind of like
She's on a skateboard.
rig. She's like
She's
on the
getting the
half pipe.
stream.
Shredding it up.
I need someone to draw that now. That sounds
Shredding
like the funniest
Sadako.
shit.
Oh, Katie.
It would have been sick if Sadako had done like a Madonna or like an Impossible, like a 360 Impossible into the well.
Does a 900, just fucking stealing Tony Hawk shit.
Just, like,
900 off a ramp.
it just like grinds all the way down.
I'm just picturing,
Uh.
like, I would fucking absolutely buy a t-shirt that's just Sadako with, like, the cover from Skate or Die.
Okay. That's gonna be our first t-shirt.
100% in.
No one is gonna listen to this episode and they're not even gonna know what it is. Okay. Oof. Let me just dab my tears here. Okay, so yeah, so Sadako's just like floating really fast. She's got like elbow pads on. All right, sorry. So, yeah, so they both lunge at Yuri, and then Yuri jumps into the well, and the two ghost ladies collide and explode. For some reason. There's some kind of tentacle thing that happens, and Keizo just gets completely cut in half. I had to rewind it because I didn't at first realize that he, like, half of his body goes flying, and I was just like, what's going on? He's dead now. But he thought he was going to get out of it, not being the one to sacrifice himself. But he didn't. And then Sadako and Kayako merge into some sort of like tentacle hair thing with big eyeballs.
Very weird.
It was. I unfortunately have to watch Shudder on my iPad, and it was hard for me to see some of the like details, like if like the scene was darker. So I had a really hard time figuring out like what was going on there.
I watched it on TV, and
Just hair and eyeballs.
What was that, Kit?
I said just hair and eyeballs.
Yeah,
that was all that was going
I was
on.
gonna say I watched it on TV, and I could barely tell what was happening.
Okay. Um, okay. So, and then it follows down the well. Um, Tamayo wakes up for some reason and is like, "Hey, cover the well." And she finds out that Keizo is dead. She's sad. Oh, and we also get Tamayo vision, where she can see an outline of Suzuka and just a black mass. Suzuka covers the well with this like bamboo thing. Not really sure how they thought that was going to keep him in there, but that's fine.
I assumed it
And
was
then
like
the time,
a dream catcher, sort of.
yeah, I mean, it had like talisman around it, and I'm sure there was like other stuff on it, but it was like, yeah. And then Sadako just busts out of the top of the well, and that's the end. Uh, did you guys watch the after credit
Yeah,
scene?
that was just like the tape or whatever.
Yeah, so it's just like an updated version of the tape where Sadako like comes out of the basement, but she's all clicky clacky like Kayako, and like now,
Skateboarding.
yeah, she's
Shredding it up.
yeah, that's right. She's doing kickflips. Like,
The cursed video is like her late 90s, early 2000s skate video, like skate compilation. Ad for
oh,
Thrasher on the back end.
It'd have been
I love
awesome
it.
if it was just like she just like fucking came in from the top of the screen into like a half pipe.
I love it so much. Yeah, so that's the end. So I, the idea of this movie to me, like the idea of Sadako and Kayako fighting to me sounded really appealing in a stupid way. So like I didn't really expect this to be like a masterpiece. The things that I thought that there were some pretty cool, like we said, there was like some cool kill effects. Like what I was disappointed in is the actual fight between them was barely anything. It was like almost nothing. And then the twist ending, which is that they merge into one being, which I do really like, I just think was like not executed very well. Like I expected maybe like at the end when Sadako like came up, maybe she had like Kayako's head also. Like I don't know. I thought that their like merging of ghost ladies would have looked cooler than it did. It just was like a like what? I don't even know what it was.
I barely noticed they merged, so
I mean, I don't really think that it's super obvious, except for that you can hear Kayako's clicking.
yeah.
But but I mean, like, that's not. I don't know. The other thing that I wanted to point out was that so the ending theme song was called. So if you guys watch this movie, that there's a theme song at the end. It's called "Curses Sha Na 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 Na," and
Perfect title.
it is by yeah, it is by a band, it's a Japanese band singing in English. The band is called Saikimi 2. And when I looked them up, they are described as a heavy metal band. The lead singer's name is like Demon Ka or something like that. And they are in visual K, which is basically just like the Japanese version of like Kiss makeup and stuff like that. Like that's and I was just like, wouldn't really call this heavy metal. But I watched the music video for it, and it's like really funny because it's like a thriller style, like The Ring music video, and it's very funny. So that was the movie.
Boo.
It was
It's fine.
12. It was, yeah, no, it was fine. I didn't, to be honest, like, it's not like I expected it to be the best thing ever just because, like, I don't know, but it was fine.
It's no Freddy vs. Jason.
Yes.
See, well, that's sort of why I expected them to, like, fight a little bit more, but I think they just, like, spent too much of the movie doing, like, setup for it, and I'm like, listen, people who do not know what The Ring and the Grudge are not just going to watch this movie. Like, you don't need to do that much setup, but whatever. That's just my opinion. So yeah, other than like The Ring and The Grudge, do you guys have any other like exposure to Japanese horror movies?
I'll say,
I think
oh, go ahead.
I'll say I think literally just Audition, which is fucked up and real
I know
good.
you've seen at
But
least one more. Because I thought,
what
I
is it?
didn't know
Tell me.
Katie.
Tell me what I've
Hold
seen.
on.
Didn't you watch Tetsuo?
That's what I was going to say.
Oh,
Tetsuo
sorry.
the
Oh
Iron
yeah,
Man.
yeah. Tetsuo rules.
It's very good. Katie, did you do a top five?
Um, basically what I did was like a list of, I guess it's technically a top. I mean, I basically did a list of like what are some of my favorites. But I want you guys to go first because like probably I have some duplicates. So
Well, we know Kit's top two because he's seen
Yeah,
two of them.
but flip the order. Tetsuo is number one, and then Audition.
I did a top five that I had to look up because most of the movies I was thinking of were actually Korean.
Korea, yeah, I was sure.
But
I can definitely do a top
I mean, like,
Korean
so a
films.
big. My problem mostly was that for the most part, I mostly follow Takashi Miike movies
Okay,
more than just like Japanese ones. So like, I tried to
right.
figure out a list that wasn't just his movies. But I have number five, Entrails of a Virgin by Kazuo Komizu, which is a movie about a monster that kills a bunch of people making a softcore porn movie.
That's on brand for you. All
It's
right.
very, very ridiculous and weird. It's like, it feels almost like somebody was trying to make the Toxic Avenger, but like on a porn set. It's very strange. Number four is not totally a horror movie, but also incredible. Ichi the Killer
Yeah. I
by
mean,
Takashi
yeah.
Makai. I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Mike. Mike.
Then Tetsu the Iron Man, who I forgot to write down who directed it. And then I have One Cut of the Dead by.
I think it's.
What?
Is it not also Takashi Miike?
No, it is not.
I'm gonna look it up. Go ahead.
One Cut of the Dead
Uh,
by.
Tsukamoto.
What?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Shinya Tsukamoto.
Yeah.
Oh.
One Cut of the Dead is directed by Shin Ichiro Ueda. Very good. If nobody's watched it, it's on Shudder as well. And then, obviously, Audition, number one. Because it is the best. Audition's
Yeah, I haven't.
like a top like 10 horror movie for me, so
Yeah, I think a lot of people who haven't seen a lot of them, I think Audition is like one of the ones that like edges out like a lot of people who have only seen like maybe one or two, they've seen Audition. Um, and I think that one is a really, really good one.
I didn't realize like it was based on a book, and now I want to read the book.
Yeah. I have not read it. I have seen the movie. I don't really know that much about it. But so for me, like the very, very first one, I just like bought this randomly. The very first like Japanese horror movie I saw was Uzumaki, which was originally written by Junji Ito, which like I've talked about on the podcast a lot. He's like very, very well known as like a horror, like he's mostly a mangaka, so he does horror comics. And I think his like artwork is like pretty iconic. A lot of people I feel like have seen pictures from Uzumaki and also Tomo.
He
What?
has a book that I think is like the funniest thing he ever did. That's like just about
Cat Diary?
yes, just about the horrors of
Yeah.
owning cats.
That's my favorite because it's like his stuff is like so he's like really popular for Uzumaki and also one called Tomie, which is I'm pretty sure everyone has seen. art from that. It's like the girl who has like the split face or whatever. And so he's got like all of this crazy stuff. But then yeah, he has one that's called Junji Ito's Cat Diary. That's like about him and his wife and their two cats, which to me is like the funniest thing ever. And it's like really cute because it's like, he does all this like messed up stories or whatever, but he's just like a normal guy. I think it's funny. So yeah, so Uzumaki, also Cairo, which is Pulse here. Um, there, Dark Water, which was they did an American adaptation of that with Jennifer Connelly in 2005, which I actually like the adaptation also. But that is another one it's based off of a short story that was written by Koji Suzuki, who is the person who wrote Ringu. So that was like a pretty fun tie-in. I already said Tomie, which is Junji Ito, and then Maribito is another one I really like. Then I think the genre difference between like what we would consider horror here and what they consider horror in Japan, I think is a little bit different because like for movies, like you said, like Ichi the Killer. Then I also had Audition. I also had Tetsuo. I also had one called Suicide Club, and then Hausu, which is a classic. So those are like sort of the ones that I think of as being like the ones that kind of like stand out to me. Not even necessarily that they're my top 5, but they're just like what I started watching first that like really got me into like seeking that kind of stuff. Like I'm not going to talk about anime. Like if people want me to recommend them some like horror anime, I can, but I'm not going to go off on that tangent. But that's sort of like what got me into more of that sort of stuff. So yeah, Tetsuo, Dark Water, Audition, and Ichi the Killer are all on Shudder. So if you have Shudder along with the movie that we covered today, like definitely go and watch that. And even like the only anime I'm going to recommend is the Junji Ito collection, which is on Crunchyroll, which is a like it's like an anime streaming service, but you can watch it free with ads. So yeah.
The only anime anyone should ever watch is One Punch Man.
One Punch Man sucks.
One Punch Man is so good.
Damn.
And has the best theme song.
I don't like it. So yeah, I don't know. I guess like the reason that I picked this movie is because it is like pretty different than anything we've done, even though we did that like weird zombie thing. But I don't ever get to talk about any Japanese like movies really, and we had talked like previously about doing like some sort of J-horror thing just because there's just so many good stuff. And to your point too, like Korean movies, what was the one that you brought up that we were like that's Korean? Do you remember?
When I was joking that my entire list is just going to be the American remakes.
Oh boy. Yeah, I mean like there's some other ones. They have this like whole series of Korean movies, and I can't remember like what the series is called, but there's a few of them that I own. Like Tale of Two Sisters is really good.
Yeah.
Wishing Stairs, like that kind of thing. I actually haven't seen as many like Korean horror movies as I have seen like they have like a long string of like like what I would call like revenge movies, like I Saw the Devil and stuff like that.
The revenge movies are the best.
Yes.
I Saw the Devil so hard.
They're just a little bit much for me sometimes.
Fair.
I'm not a very big like watch somebody kill people the whole time sort of like I don't know.
You should absolutely watch Ichi the Killer then.
Oh, I've seen it. But no, I know. I think I used to be a lot more like into as I'm older, I'm just like, goodness, I just can't.
Less than a murder.
Yeah, well, no, I'm still into murder, but I think I don't know. But yeah, so and like I don't ever really talk about like obviously like I'm a huge fucking nerd like I already revealed. I don't really talk about like anime. I don't really like watch anime or anything like that anymore, but I think this picking like this specific movie, not necessarily one that I already knew was going to be good, kind of like fit I Hope You Suffer a little bit more. And I had like such a fun time like researching stuff for it. And I like when we went to Japan last year, I like made like Japanese playlist of like songs I used to listen to, and it just really was like a when you like rediscover songs that you used to listen to, it's just like great and like literally. Um, I took Japanese like when I was in college for a couple semesters, and it's like literally where I met my husband, and like none of that stuff would have happened. So for me, it was just fun to like do something a little bit different, and I don't know where I'm going with this, but it wasn't it wasn't a super great movie, but like the overall experience for me was really fun. So I hope people like give it a chance. Not specifically this movie, but like seek out like not just Japanese movies. I do feel like they do offer a lot. Like their culture is just so different from ours that to me, like even Korea. Korea is different than Japan. They're like customs and stuff too. So like branching out and reading and like watching something, even though you're like, well, I don't know if I can really pay attention to what's happening because I have to read subtitles or whatever. Watch it more than once. You know what I mean? Like I really just hope that this will have, if at least one person is just like, you know what, I'm gonna watch a subtitle movie tonight. Like, that's what I'm here for because you need to be doing that kind of stuff. And other cultures have things to offer. That's all I'm gonna add about it. End of rant.
Uh, Katie's gonna get kicked out of America now.
That's fine.
Yes, that sounds pretty preferable. Did you have like any news that you looked at all, Katie?
I do have a news.
A news.
No, I don't really. I just
Every week you're
I
like,
saw
not really. Here's three things though.
I don't actually. I saw this blurb article that was about I had misread it and I thought that Bruce Campbell was cast in the new Doctor Strange sequel, but it was just like somebody wanted him to be in
Well, I
it,
mean,
and I was like, fuck
he's
you.
gonna be in it.
Okay, well they have imagined him as Mr. Sinister, which I think would be pretty cool, but um
What would you even do
what
with him as Mr. Sinister in that movie?
anything you want.
Also, Mr. Sinister was teased at the end of Days of Future Past or Apocalypse.
Oh.
I forget which one. It was one of the X-Men movies. That I guess that whole series is done now since Marvel has it. So
Yeah, who knows? But other than that, I mean not really. Um
I mean, it is worth stating that Sam Raimi is officially directing Doctor Strange now, which is gonna be amazing.
yes, that was my official news. Other than that, not really. Stephen King's new book that was supposed to come out next month, will be out by the time this episode comes out. He pushed it up, which is, I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna read it. I don't know how it's gonna be, but, so yeah, that'll be out. I don't know. I watched the first two episodes of the new What We Do in the Shadows season, and the first episode was hilarious, and the second episode was like kind of weird, but still seems like this. I don't know. Sometimes with those series, it's like the first season's really good, and then the second season is like, well, whatever. But I don't know. Still seems pretty funny.
Is that your shout out this week? Is What We Do in the Shadows again?
Yeah, aside from the like 12 other things that I told everybody to watch. Oh, and the other thing that I wanted to point out, I wanted to talk about, we sort of like did this already, but any like, um, I think one of the things is like with, like the Japanese stuff that people just sort of like write it off because they think it's just like anime shit, which like it is anime shit, but, I think you know, they also gave us like Silent Hill and Resident Evil and House of the Dead and for Nathan, Mario. So I just wanted to shout out some other like game franchises. I know we've already talked about Fatal Frame. I think probably people know what Fatal Frame is at this point, maybe.
I've literally never heard of it, but I don't need it explained to me
Okay.
either because I'm never gonna look for it.
Right. So, Fatal Frame and Siren are two sort of like horror survival like games, and I was shouting those out because they are like set because like Silent Hill, I think if you like pay attention to it, you can like see that it's a Japanese game, but it doesn't really like take place in an atmosphere that's overtly Japanese to me anyways, and Fatal Frame and Siren like definitely are. And then there's another one for PS2 called Clock Tower 3, and the only reason I'm bringing that one up is because it was directed by Kinji Fukasaku, who did Battle Royale, which I feel like everyone knows what Battle Royale is. Does Nathan, do you know?
No, I don't care about any of this at all. I
Okay.
am like the
Um,
least a video game person on earth.
well, Battle Royale is like I think pretty popular even amongst like people who don't like watching like foreign movies. Um, and then there's another one for the Wii called Fragile Dreams that I think people should look into. It was kind of like a early on game. It's like a horror survival game, like I said, that you're like playing as a character through the apocalypse, but it has that system where like you get weapons that break, which is just really unnerving, but it has a really cool atmosphere. So my shout outs would be to check those out.
Battletoads as well.
Stop saying Battletoads.
Battletoads rules. Is infuriating. uh,
That's
what?
that it's infuriating.
No. All right, Kit, you want to shout anything out?
Underwater.
Uh,
Underwater just came out, and I watched it, and it fucking
did
rules.
you? Have to,
I was
And
gonna
if you
say
haven't seen it, don't Google anything about it. Just watch it, because there's a delightful surprise for horror nerds.
as a,
I was gonna say I've just go ahead.
I was gonna say, what is it? Is it? Do you have to rent it, or is it up streaming for free anywhere?
I think it's just rental right now.
What were you gonna say, Katie? Hello.
Sorry. I've been seeing nothing. Like pretty much all the news I've seen has been about that movie. Uh, like person releases new sketches from it, and like this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, okay, but I can't watch it, so like, don't talk to me right now. I wanted to see it. I
Don't
was gonna
click on
actually,
any of those articles.
huh?
So don't click on any of those articles.
Yeah.
I believe
Well.
Shane already ruined it for me, but I still want to watch it.
Yeah. I was actually. I don't really go see a lot of movies like in the theater, and I was actually gonna go and like try and support that one. But like I said, there was no theaters around me playing it, so I guess I should just like VOD it, but I don't know.
I'm gonna suggest another Mickey movie that is extremely weird. Sukiyaki Western Django, which is his extremely bizarre take on a Western movie. It is very good and very weird.
I'm in.
I believe it is currently on Prime, like for free. I'm also gonna say listen to Graph Orlock and go buy their new shirt with Logan on it, killing ICE members.
Super backed.
You know what I did finally watch was I watched a couple episodes of Hot Ones.
Oh, it's so good.
Or is that what it's called? I watched the Aubrey Plaza episode, and then I watched the one with Guy Fieri, and it was really funny because he was like cussing on it, and every time he cussed, I was like, because like you don't ever hear him cuss or whatever.
You
But
have
so that was
you
pretty
have
funny.
to watch the Key and Peele one. It's like my favorite one.
Okay, yeah, I only watched those two, but it was pretty funny.
Um. All right. So starting next week in May, we are all gonna hate our lives for a month because we are.
More than usual
Yes.
somehow.
For some reason, we decided now was the best time to make us watch the worst movies we could find and just suffer through even more bullshit. Do do you guys already have your movies picked?
Oh
No.
yeah.
Okay, so do either of you want to go first? Do you guys care about like an order?
Well, I need to go last because I don't have a movie.
Oh, okay. I mean, I'll just go first, so we can do Kit's and then yours.
All right.
So mine is from 2014. So I get the premise is we each tried to find the worst movie we could, and then we're gonna see who picked the worst movie, and then hopefully we can find something fun to watch for the fourth week.
Spoiler alert, it's Kit.
I hope so.
So Rob Zombie directed. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh!
So Shane actually reminded me that this movie existed. Kit might know what it is when I say it, but it's 2014's The Lock-In.
The Lock-In.
So it is a movie. It is a Christian horror movie.
Oh fuck! All right, you're gonna win already.
About some kid that accidentally looks at some porn and gets possessed and
No.
during a church lock-in.
This is not. This is not.
The IMDb page under user reviews. There's one that is 1 star, and the headline just says "Not great."
Oh, I can't wait. And the only place you can watch it is YouTube, which just makes it even better.
Oh god.
I can't wait.
I think for some reason this sounds familiar to me. So I must have seen someone talk about it before.
So Shane
But
Shane will do these things periodically where he just like for some reason loves to just like watch and live tweet just shitty Christian propaganda-y movies, and he talks about this movie all the time.
He's doing the Lord's work.
I was just like, oh fuck, because I was like torn between a couple movies. Then I was like, wait, what was that fucking one movie? And I had to ask him what it was called, and I was like, yes, definitely doing this.
Nobody has a photo or a name.
Oh, so
There's
good.
one person that has a name.
I can't wait to see how bad it is.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just hoping it's not an hour and 50 minutes.
2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Slow motion.
It's just Avengers Endgame. Yes, it's gonna be real bad. So yeah, everybody watch The Lock-In on YouTube next week. And tell us how much you hated it.
I already hate it, and we haven't
Yeah,
watched
same.
it yet.
The production company's Holy Moly Pictures.
Oh, that's worth it enough.
I like how this the photos is just like the cover over and over again in different sizes.
I hope Caitlin watches it with me.
Oh, it says available exclusively for streaming or download at thelockinmovie.com.
Oh, there we go. Everybody go give them your money. They deserve it.
I'm gonna see if it's still a website. The website is in a different language.
This isn't the actual for the movie, though?
It says thelockinmovie.com.
Perfect.
Alright, so
This
on
is
the right-hand side, there's a user list for 100 worst films I have ever seen. And one of the movies at the top is Cries of the Unborn. And the description is just gibberish. It says, ooh, ooh, okay, ooh, oh, okay, ooh, okay, ooh.
Oh, I
A
see
series
it.
of nines. Ooh, ooh, oh, ooh, me, oh, ooh, okay, Kikio.
Makes sense to me.
I'm just gonna look through this list and pick one.
There you go. We're only going to do Christian horror movies for this month. Oh, fuck.
Okay.
Alright. So,
A long month.
yeah, it's going to be terrible. We gotta find something real good for the last week.
Actually good or
Yes,
real good
like
as in
actually good.
I pick the Trump prophecy from 2018.
Oh boy, that's probably it sounds like a documentary.
It looks. Oh, it's sorry. It's a Christian miniseries. Can't do a miniseries.
You can leave us ratings and reviews on iTunes and whatever else fucking lets you do that.
Oh, Elves is on his list.
Oh,
Sorry.
Elves is real bad. You can follow us on Twitter at I Hope You Suffer and Instagram at I Hope You Suffer Podcast. Kit's other podcast, Riff Raff. Go listen to their back
We're
catalog.
back.
What was that?
We got a new episode. We're
We're
live.
back.
Oh shit!
Whoa. Music happened.
Yeah, there's finally music in the world.
It's just an entire episode of oh shit! What was that country artist? I was like, you had me listen to Honey Harper.
Honey Harper.
Yeah, just that.
I did get Pat to play a 15-minute ambient, like krautrock song to finish out the podcast.
Perfect. Follow Katie at Werewolf Face on all of the things. Buy art from her.
Yeah.
You can listen to my other podcast, Let Me Be Your Pot of Love. We got a new episode out that came out the same day we're recording. That is the return of New York, finally, so it's actually fun again. Other than that, I want to say watch The Lock-In, but probably don't.
Yeah, probably don't.
We will tell you all about it through Massive Size all next week.
A lot of goddamn it.
It's gonna be so bad. Alright, I hope you suffer, but why?
Oh man, I was gonna meow too.
Something
Gotta be quick on.
something meat shake but creepy.
Wasn't quick enough with my meow.